Manchester United have just beaten, who have they just beaten? They've just beaten Chelsea 2-1 at Old Trafford. That was probably one of the best performances I think I've seen this season from Manchester United. We should have easily won that by more than one goal. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes missing a penalty. We had 2 or 3 really, really good opportunities to score as well. I think we were the better team. I genuinely believe that. I think in the first half, it was probably the best half of football I've seen from Manchester United this season. We completely outplayed Chelsea. Second half, I think we lost it a little bit. First 10 or 15 minutes of that second half, I was a little bit concerned, but overall, I was very, very happy. Obviously, the big news was that Marcus Rashford got dropped, and you know what? I think it's proved that Marcus Rashford not being in that team makes a massive difference. Garnacho, unbelievable performance, never stopped running, gave 150% the whole game. Anthony, probably one of the best performances I've seen from Anthony in a Manchester United shirt. Gave 150% so many times, was taking on his man. Really, really great performance from Anthony and from Garnacho. And those two have to start every single game for me now. There is no way on earth that Marcus Rashford can get back into that team. The only place I can see Marcus Rashford playing now is as the striker, because Rasmus Højlund, obviously, he hasn't really been getting on any opportunities, but you can't drop Garnacho and you cannot drop Anthony for me. So if he's going to get back into the team, it's instead of Rasmus Højlund. That would be my only way of seeing Marcus Rashford back in the United shirt, to be honest. Unless Anthony or Garnacho gets injured. Let's run through it though. So we had in that game 29 attempts and 9 shots on target. Really, really happy about it. Honestly, they only had 13. In comparison, our expected goals for that game was 4 goals. Theirs was only 1. So we missed the penalty. McTominay had a header, which he probably should have scored. There was 2 or 3 other opportunities where we definitely should have scored a goal as well. And I think that 2-1 was actually a little bit kind on Chelsea. I think it could have been a lot worse than that. I think it should have been at least 3 or 4-1, to be honest. Now, the one thing I will say is, Scott McTominay, although he got the 2 goals, I think his midfield performance was a little bit weak. Amrabat was unbelievable today. I've been a bit critical of Amrabat over the last couple of weeks, but today he's proved why we wanted to sign him, and he's proved to me really why I was so excited about him in the first place, because I knew that he did have the capability of being a good player. I just worried that Erik ten Hag wasn't going to give him enough game time, and then when we do see him for 10, 20 minutes, he'd look a little bit off it. And that's all we've seen of Amrabat so far. We've seen him at left back, we've seen him in midfield, and he's looked a little bit weak and a little bit out of touch, hasn't he? But I think today he proved why we signed Sofyan Amrabat. And you know what? I think he was one of the best players on the pitch, Sofyan Amrabat. I think he had a really, really good performance. But I want you guys to let me know in the comment section who your man of the match was for that game. It's obviously going to go to McTominay from the kind of general pundits because he got the 2 goals. And I guess rightly so. McTominay in the box is a very, very dangerous player. And the thing you guys always have to remember, is that McTominay, for most of his career, was a striker. He only got turned into a CDM when Jose Mourinho came here. For all of his youth career, he played as a striker. And you can see why. He was a striker and why he's scoring these goals, because he's clearly better in the attacking positions than he is in the CDM positions. Now, the only thing I will say is this, right? I think the one issue we have in our midfield is that obviously you can't have Bruno Fernandes and McTominay so far up the pitch. Like, it is dangerous, it is risky, and if you played like how we did today against the Liverpool, they would cut right through us, because ultimately the only person who was the number 6 or the CDM was Amrabat. He was the lone CDM, and you wouldn't be able to play like that against Man City, against Liverpool, probably against Arsenal, maybe against Aston Villa. That's my only take on this. So I'm not criticising the players. I just think that Erik ten Hag's got to be very, very careful, because there was quite a few instances in the game where we saw Bruno Fernandes dropping back into more of a CDM role to come back and defend, because we know that it's not McTominay's strong point. Fran says we should play McTominay as a striker. Mate, I would do that 100%. I would play McTominay further up the pitch because he gets us goals. I think he's our leading goal scorer now in the Premier League. He got 2 today. He got 2 against Sheffield United, I think. He is Manchester United's top goal scorer. Just let that sink in for a second. Rasmus Højlund, I think he's going to go on to be a very good player. He scored 0 goals in the Premier League so far. McTominay scored 5 goals already in the Premier League. Just let that in for a minute. Let's have a look what else. Alan says Bruno was not very good today. I probably agree, yeah. I don't think Bruno had a particularly good game. Obviously, he missed the penalty. That penalty was weak. I want to say this as well, right? That goal that Onana conceded was definitely questionable. I don't want to pinpoint specific people for blame, but obviously that goal was dodgy. But arguably, he did make a really big save about 10 minutes before that. So I think it kind of outbalanced itself. Richie says, Villa beat City. We're now only 3 points behind Man City. I mean, yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? For a team that, you know, there's people calling for the manager to be sacked. There's pundits saying that he's not good enough. We're 3 points behind the best team in the world. Let that sink in for a minute. Man City, in my opinion, are still the best team in world football. They're unbelievable. Yes, they lost today to Aston Villa away from home, but Aston Villa are a good side. So yeah, we're only 3 points behind Man City. I'm happy with that. You know, 27 points off 15 games. What was that? It's nearly 2 points a game. Like, it's not terrible, is it? I think that probably is top 4 form, isn't it? I mean, what's 38 times 2? Yeah, I mean, if we were to end the season now, we'd end it on about 76 points if we carried on the form that we had so far. And I think that would be enough to get us top 4, 76 points. So overall, I'm very, very happy with what I saw tonight. I would have been gutted if they'd have conceded in those last couple of minutes, to be honest, because we definitely deserved to win that match. We did win that match, and I think that was the correct result. I think it's shown to all of these fans that the correct players are behind Erik ten Hag. You cannot tell me for 1 minute, right, that a single one of those players that was out there on that pitch tonight wasn't playing for Erik ten Hag. There's no way. They all were. It was clear to see. They all gave 150%, all of them. So hats off to them. And I want to say this as well, right? Harry Maguire tonight, unbelievable. Unbelievable. If you don't believe me, right, go back and watch that game maybe tomorrow or something. And Harry Maguire didn't put a foot wrong all game. He was unbelievable. He was. He beat so many people with headers and all sorts. Like, Harry Maguire had a really, really good game. I thought Dalot was good as well. Luke Shaw, when he moved to left-sided centre-back, I really, really like that. I think he was a little bit sloppy at left back, but that was obviously because he got a yellow card very early on, so it made him a little bit on edge, didn't it? Richie says Anthony had his best game for Manchester United. I think that interview fired him up. Yeah, mate, 100%. I said that a couple of minutes ago. That was Anthony's best performance for me. I would give that an 8 out of 10 performance from Anthony today. I mean, Garnacho, unbelievable. Obviously got the assist for the winner. Unbelievable performance from Garnacho. Amrabat, I think, was an 8 out of 10. Bruno, probably like a 6. I think he was a little bit weak today. Obviously, McTominay is going to get an 8. Højlund, obviously, he didn't get any goals. He didn't get any assists, but he worked very, very hard. So big ups to Højlund. Generally, I'm happy with every single one of them today. They've restored a bit of faith. Because I'll be honest with you, right? That first 10 minutes or 15 minutes of the game, I was watching it, and for the first time in my whole life, I think, then this is going to sound quite sad, all right? But just take this with a pinch of salt. For the first 10 or 15 minutes of that match, I was really struggling to feel anything, because over this whole week, obviously we've been talking so much about the game against Newcastle. I felt so wronged, so let down after that Newcastle game, that I genuinely was struggling to watch it, because I just felt uninterested. I thought, why am I wasting my time watching this if these players don't even care? Do you know what I mean? That was kind of in the first 5 or so minutes. I was feeling like that, and then I saw them start actually showing me that they cared, and I just immediately started to enjoy it again. Obviously, I'm always going to watch Manchester United. It's the team I've supported all my life. I'm never going to stop watching them. But it was a sad first 5 minutes of the game where I genuinely felt so disconnected from these players after the lack of interest they showed against Newcastle, and all of these stories that they want the manager gone, and I felt ashamed of them, to be honest. And for them to then turn it round and to prove to all of these pundits that they do want Erik ten Hag here, to prove that they're playing for that badge and to give 150%, that's the bare minimum we ask for. But obviously, I'm really, really happy with that. Let's see what people are saying in the chat quickly. So we are currently 9 points off the top, someone's asked. Yeah. You know what as well, right? Obviously, we've got Bournemouth on the weekend. I think we'll win that. I would say that we're going to lose to Liverpool, but most teams lose to Liverpool, so that's nothing to be ashamed of. But for Erik ten Hag's sake, I'm so happy that we've won this game today. I imagine we'll probably go and beat Bournemouth on the weekend, and then who knows what will happen in the Champions League game. But at least now, at least going into that Champions League game, if we've won the last 2 Premier League games, it just makes everything a little bit more calm around the club, because you can already imagine, the Manchester Evening News, all of these newspapers had already got their headline printed tomorrow if they'd have lost to Chelsea tonight. It would have already been adding to the Eric Ten Hag out train. So I'm really happy for Eric. I think today showed that the players that he picked were playing for him. It does bring question marks over Marcus Rashford. I don't see a place for Rashford in this team anymore. I simply don't. I don't see it. And I think he has to earn his place back again. Maybe I see him as a backup striker. If I was Eric Ten Hag now, if I was Jean-Claude Blanc, if I was Paul Mitchell, the first thing I would do in the January window, now, I'm not saying we are, in the position we are because of Anthony Martial, but in the January window, I would let Martial go. His contract's up in the summer anyway. So for me, there is absolutely no point in keeping Anthony Martial. Get rid of him in January and then use Marcus Rashford as the backup striker behind Rasmus Højlund. That's what I would do. I would keep Garnacho as the left winger. I would keep Anthony as the right winger. Obviously, you've got Pellistri, you've got Amad Diallo. You've got plenty of options in that right wing and left wing position. So for me, I would stick Marcus Rashford as the backup striker behind Højlund, let Martial go in in January. And then that means we don't have to bother with this Guirassy guy from Stuttgart, because to be honest, he's probably not going to be good enough. And I think Marcus Rashford as a backup striker to kind of rotate with Rasmus Højlund, I would be open to that. I think that would be a good thing for Marcus Rashford to do. I know some people in the chat will say, oh no, I don't want him to play at all, but Marcus Rashford is still a good player. But for me, on those wings, Eric Ten Hag needs his wingers to work 150% every single game. And Rashford, for whatever reason, isn't willing to do that, okay? So instead of bothering to try and train him to do that, because he's clearly not going to do it, stick him up front as the striker in Rasmus Højlund's position, because we know Rasmus can't play every single game. He's only 20 years of age. He's just come to the Premier League. So that's what I would do going forward. And I think that we've kind of got our solution there. I think Amrabat needs to play a lot more. I think McTominay had a great game. It was a very, very positive result. Let me know what your thoughts are, though, everybody, in the comment section below. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back live, obviously, tomorrow morning at 8:30. Going to sleep a very, very happy man tonight. So, yeah, enjoy this, savor this moment, and I'll speak to you all at about 8:30 tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone.